Hi, it's Dee
Hello.
Runnels that just checked in.
Hi, Dee. This is Dee.
Okay.
So is Joanne as well? Well, we'll find out tomorrow.
We will find out. Are we good, Ryan? Okay.
Okay. Welcome, hello and welcome to the Aurora Public Library. I'm Dave Berry, President of Rails Board, and I call this meeting to order on Friday, July 28th at 1 p.m. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Christine Farr. Dave Berry.
Here?
Susan Busenbart. Here. Judy Crocker. Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Kate Hall.
Here.
Paul Mills. Scott Poynton.
Here.
Dee Runnels.
Here.
Nadia Sheikh.
Here.
Michelle Simmons.
Here.
Joe Skibinski.
I'm here.
Yay.
Laura Turner.
Here.
Lori Wilcox. Harriet Zipfel.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll do the roll call. Let's see, we've done that. Guests. Let's start with here in Aurora. Could the guests identify themselves?
Start. Jane Plants, Rails. Emily Feister, Rails.
Ryan Hebel, Rails.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
Debbie Baskey,
Could we, before we, since we have a lot of new board members, could we, in addition to just saying you're from Rails, state what your position is as well to help people know who you are? And where to go to when you have IT issues? I mean, other stuff.
The rest of us
Rails Associate Executive Director.
Emily Feister, I am the Executive Assistant.
I'm Ryan Hebel. I'm with IT, so you probably be calling me with those IT issues.
I'm Jim Krieger. I'm the Director of Finance and soon to be Human Resources.
Debbie Baskey, the Member Engagement Manager.
Rose Chenoweth, Director of Talking Books.
Mary Witt, Communications Director at Rails.
Louise Savela, Consulting and Continuing Education Specialist.
Daisy Porter Reynolds, I'm not from Rails. I'm the Director of the Aurora Public Library, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Hatch. I'm the Director of Facilities and Delivery
Thank you.
at RIS.
I am Dee Brennan. I'm the Executive Director of Rails.
Okay. Now, do we have, I'm just going to go down the list. Do we have any guests in Bolingbrook? Coal Valley? East Peoria?
Yes, Kendall Orison. I'm the LSAP Services Manager for RSA.
And Liza Hickey, I'm from Peoria Public Library.
Great.
And do we have anyone in Rockford? The Vernon Area Library. Illinois State Library.
Deborah Aggert, Associate Director of Library Development, Grants and Programs and Literacy.
And Mark Schaefer with the Library Development Group.
Thank you. Anyone in Galesburg?
No
Any guests
guests
in
here.
Galesburg?
No guests.
Okay. And any guests at the Quincy Public Library? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is for us to adopt the agenda.
The phone, no.
Pardon?
I don't think there's any guests on the phone, but just
Is there guests on the phone?
make sure. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
None with me, Dee Runnels.
Okay. May I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved?
Okay,
I'll second.
and Scott seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I'm sorry. Opposed, no? Motion carried. Now we're coming down to the election, the swearing in of the new elected board members. Would they please stand? Okay. Do you each have one of these? Could you read it after me? I. Insert your name, please.
Joseph A. Kubinski.
Christine Barr.
Nadia Shake.
Gwen Gregory.
Okay. solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution.
P. Reynolds, right, that's right, she's being.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the
Constitution
Constitution of the
of the State of Illinois.
United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Directors of Reaching Across Illinois Library System according to the best of my ability.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the member of the Board of Directors of the Reaching Across Illinois Library System according to the best of my ability.
The best of my ability.
Okay. I want to thank all of you for joining us.
Yay.
Now, the next item is election of officers. The slate of officers recommended by the nominee committee was included in your agenda packet. The floor is open to nomination. If there are no other nominations, may I have a motion for approval of the slate of officers as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Scott. Second?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Hearing none, motion carried. Kate Hall, will you please take over the rest of the meeting? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dave, but I'll say when I get to my report. So approval of the Rails board minutes from the June 16th, 2017 regular meeting. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
So moved.
Thanks, Nadia. Oh, was that Dee?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I will abstain.
Sue, Dave, and Scott abstaining.
Also the ones who, also the people who weren't board members at the time.
If
Right?
that happens, we will not be able to pass. So you only need, my understanding of Robert's Rules of Order is that you only need to, that you don't have to abstain if you were not there. You are merely verifying that these are minutes and that there does not appear to be anything that is grossly negligent. The financial statements were in there, the motions were all present. So you do not technically have to abstain if you were not present, but of course that is always each individual's right.
Right.
If they so choose. So, you're, okay. That was okay. So we'll have one abstention then, and the rest ayes. So next up, we have the Rails financial report, and we have Jim Krieger. So for the new board members, Jim presents a report every month for us on the financials that's also included in your packet. So, Jim, take it away.
Thank you. In your packet is the Rails financial report for the month of June, which completes our fiscal year 2017. And the reports that are attached are drafts and not audited. What they're missing is the part of the financial statements that converted to
Jim, can I pause you for just 1 minute?
Can you?
I think that there might be some background noise or someone shuffling papers on the phone possibly. Whatever it was, it just stopped, so thank you very much.
Excuse me. For those of you on the phone, if you mute yourselves unless you're speaking, that helps with the background.
Except that they can't do that for OMA.
Right, they can't mute themselves.
So board members cannot.
Okay, people on the phone cannot mute their mics. Don't breathe heavily into them, but.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Modify your breathing, not your, yeah.
Yes, or shuffling of papers. I think that's what it was. All right, sorry, Jim. Please continue.
The full financial statements, which will include what's called a statement of net position and statement of activities, which basically convert all our activities into a full accrual basis, will be presented in September once the audited financials are completed. So these are the financials of the governmental funds where all of our operations happen and upon which our budget is prepared. So again, we will be reporting on the direct audited financials in September when our Sickage partner will be here. These financials are virtually complete. The general fund expenditures will increase a few $1,000s is all from expenditures that are made in late July that we will book into fiscal year 2017. And the capital projects fund will also be booking the June construction expenditures, which approximated $172,000. So that was much more major. The unassigned general fund cash balance, which was $12.6 million, would fund approximately 13 and a half months of operations. We had been hoping we would receive the remainder of our area per capita grant, which has been awarded. The remainder is nearly $4 million. It did not happen, but we have booked these as revenues, and if we receive these revenues, this amount within 60 days of the end of the fiscal year, that entry will hold up. Otherwise, we have to reclassify them as deferred revenues, and our fund deficit for the year will be about $4 million more, so we hope that doesn't happen. We still have about 30 more days to receive this. Last year we received the remaining $4 million of our appropriation on June 27th or so, right before the end of the fiscal year. So including the remainder of the area per capita grant revenues, our revenues were $127,000 above budget, and this was primarily from higher group purchasing revenues, which offset higher group purchasing expenses. These are all reimbursed. And going forward, all our funds, the expenditures were below budget. The general fund, $131,000. From a number of classifications, including our personnel, which were about $80,000 favorable, and I included a summary of most of those. Buildings and grounds were favorable, vehicle expenses, contractual services were a bit above budget, mostly from additional ILDS, the statewide delivery service contract, which was in our first year, and we're still getting used to that. Special Revenue Fund had additional program budgeted this year, which was dependent on getting a grant from the federal government, which we didn't, so the revenues and expenditures were not incurred. And I noted our delivery expenditures were over budget this year, but it's stabilized now as we've gotten used to the statewide contract. Our expenditures in support of local library system automation program entities were $52,000 below budget. And in Rails, the two major areas that we spend our money on are delivery which accounts for about 30% of our expenditures, and the LSAP support, which were just under 20%. So those two are 50%. And as I noted earlier, the capital projects funds expenditures were $254,000 under budget, but the final number will be $172,000 less than that. But the good news is that the spending that we incurred in June was also budgeted for fiscal year 18, so it'll be favorable then. And I answered, and as I did note, if we don't receive the our general fund balance is about a $3.5 million decline from our June 30th balance of the prior year. It was $426,000 below the decline anticipated in the budget. But if we don't get that $3.954 million of variant per capita grants, the loss will increase by that much. But when we do get it, then next year will look better.
I have a question.
Yes.
30% of your expenditures you said is spent on delivery, and the other 20%, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
That's the local library system automation program, LSAP support. That's SWAN, RSA, Prairie Cat, and Magic, those entities. The people who work in 3 of those 4, all but SWAN, are actually employees of Rails. And the way this works is that we have support agreements with all 4 LSAPs, and the 3 that have their employees that are Rails employees, they partially reimburse us for these expenses. So this is a net number of expenditures that I'm citing here.
Okay.
All right, do we have any other questions for Jim? Either at the other sites or on the phone? All right, then may I please have a motion for approval of the financial report for June of 2017? Thanks,
Second.
Sue. Thanks, Dave. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Jim again talking about the, bless you. He's not going to be talking about the bless you, but the approval of the expenditures for June.
Yes, and for the new board members, at the end of the report is a listing of all our expenditures for the month of June. It includes payroll expenditures, and not all checks. Some are electronic, but we try to include everything that we have spent for your approval, and we include a full listing of the and descriptions of what these are. And the amount of expenditures for June was $1,460,632.54. That's about $500,000 or so above our normal spending for the month. But we made the EBSCO database group purchase in June. It won't be booked until July. It's a prepaid expenditure because it pertains to fiscal year 18, but it does get included in the expenditures for this month, and that amount was $427,804. And we also had 3 payrolls for June, which added another $160,000 or so. Are there any?
And the EBSCO is
That's a group purchase, so we will be.
So it's a
We will be
pass-through.
reporting that expenditure in July, and also the billings for all that,
Right.
so it'll net out, no impact on our fund balances.
So, because Rails as an organization is not allowed to make money off of consortial purchases. However, we do feel it's an important service to our members, and so Rails staff coordinate group purchases for different databases and other services, and then pay for it, and then the libraries reimburse them. So, like
It's been a
Jim
growing
said, it's
activity over the years, and I believe we broke over $1 million in fiscal year 17.
yeah. So you'll see big numbers come in, but those are always offset by the money we'll be getting from the libraries. Does anyone have any questions on the expenditures list? All right, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the check voucher register for June of 2017 in the amount of $1,460,632.54.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Nadia. Moved and seconded. Memily, will you please call roll?
Christine Barr.
Here.
Dave Barry.
Yes.
Sue Busenbark.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Kate Hall.
Yes.
Scott Clayton.
Yes.
Dee Reynolds.
Yes.
Nadia Shake.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons.
Yes.
Joe Skibinski.
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes.
Harriet Zilko.
Yes.
Okay. Where do we think that's? Now it's gone. Okay, so moving right on to reports. First is report from the Rails president. I just wanted to say thank you to Dave Barry for leading us so well this past year. I'm especially grateful that you will be continuing on the board so that you are here to offer me guidance as I try to assume the heavy mantle of president that you have left. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Kate, and I don't think you'll have any problems whatsoever.
Touche. I also wanted to welcome all of the new board members that are joining us, and I look forward very much to working with all of you over the next year. And if you ever, I know Dee will offer this as well, but if you ever have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. The Rails staff are wonderful and amazing and are always happy to answer questions, but of course, we also, as Emily just said, they are. You guys totally are. But we on the board are also happy to answer questions as well. Well, I don't think we're as awesome as the Rails staff. We strive, Dee, we strive. So thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you.
So next up we have committee reports, and first we have the consortia committee, and so Paul is not here with us today, and so Jane, would you, or is Dee, who is Dee? Dee was going to start. Dee was going to start.
Yes.
Okay.
So the consortia committee did meet on Monday, and you'll be hearing more about this under new business related to the overlay. But I'll just say now that the committee did not vote on the overlay. They requested more information about the product, I guess is the best way to put it, which is fine. Obviously, it's a big decision. So we are, as a staff, going back to work on that, and I'll let Jane add anything that you would like to add, because this has been very much her very important project.
Yeah, they had a number of questions, and so I asked them to, in addition to the discussion at the meeting, to submit questions to me by a week from next Monday. So we wait to see what we get and compile answers as best we can to those questions. I did note to them that there may be questions that we can't answer without doing a pilot project, which is the next step in the relay project.
So just to give a really high-level overview for the new board members, the overlay project is something that has been worked on for the past three?
Since 2013.
Four? Wow, we're already at 4. Okay, so time passes very quickly. To kind of try and figure out alternatives to connect people throughout the state to resources. We have, of course, a number of LSAPs, a number of standalone libraries, and a number of consortia that are not funded through Rails. So the goal was to look and see if there was a way to link those catalogs more seamlessly so that patrons would have easier access to more resources. And so the overlay, there have been a number of demos and RFPs and investigation done over the past few years into the different products. And there was a specific overlay project working group, I don't know if I said the name just quite right, but that had been specifically targeted with investigating this. And so they did make a recommendation to the consortia committee to, on the project that would essentially kind of be an umbrella over the other, over other consortia. And the plan was to do a pilot project first to test how well it worked, work out kinks, and see how expandable it would be and how cost effective it would be to do this on a larger scale. So that's kind of a really high level, broad overview. I don't know, Jane or Dee, if I missed anything that you wanted to add to that.
That hits the high points in the memo. In your packet also summarizes the various phases we have gone through in exploring this project and getting to the point of recommending software for a pilot project.
Yeah. So
And Scott was at the meeting too. I don't know if you
Yeah.
wanted to add anything.
I think you covered it.
all right, so moving along to the delivery committee, and Dee, it's
Right,
back to you.
my name is here because we don't have a delivery committee chair at the moment. They have not met, however, so there is no report.
Dave, executive committee.
Well, I guess the only thing we really have to report is that Kate and I met before the meeting today to talk with Dee about her evaluations and goals, and it went very well. And we don't have any further meetings scheduled at this time, do we?
No, Dee is going to review the goals that were set by the board, that were recommended. She's going to revise the ones that she had, and that we had some feedback from the board, and bring us a full list
Right.
of goals in the future that we'll approve at a future meeting.
Right.
So, all right. And the policy committee did not meet. And then Dee, wow, Kathy Parker was this, and so poor Dee has had to pick up a lot of the slack.
Really? I have to have a word with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the System Membership Standards Committee, and again, some background for the new board members. It was a board initiative led mostly by Kathy Parker. Dave, you were on the committee. I don't know if any.
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo Matusek, who was a school library representative, were very interested in establishing some standards for system membership that went beyond what are the very minimal standards for certification, which every member library goes through every year, which requires you to be, among other things, open 15 hours a week, to have a paid employee or employees who work 15 hours a week. Some other, as I say, they're very minimal. And those standards are the same for libraries such as Aurora, the one that we are in, or Schaumburg, which Monica directs, as well as the smallest library in Rails, which probably has a budget of less than $30,000. And so the board and the staff and many of the members think that having some standards that are responsive to the different situations of libraries would be a better way of encouraging libraries to do the best that they can, and also for Rails to assist by providing training to the libraries that need it in meeting the membership standards. So the board did pass a draft, I guess, of standards.
It was modified from the original with additional
Right.
components to be rolled
Right.
out after.
Right, to be, we're going to test it, we need to do some data analysis. then we're going to do a test, and the board will review the standards and all the testing and the analysis no later than a year from now, essentially, to see if we can implement them at that point. So, so as a result of the passage and what the next steps that have to be taken, we have been working internally at Rails, Jane and me, and our resource sharing department, who is not here today because they are off doing their jobs. That's Veranda Pitchford and Amanda Masaccio, and also Joe Philippek, who is our CE director, because CE training is a very big piece of it. So we have started working on a few different next step projects, the development of a checklist for libraries to be able to report whether they meet the standards, looking at the data to be, to be sure that we have the correct information about libraries' hours that are open and their budgetary, their collection expenditures, that kind of thing. And so we expect to report back to the board on progress in the fall.
Great. Thanks, Dee.
Yep.
You get to talk again.
I see that.
Would
All
you
right.
like to hear the director?
Sure. So, well, the most wonderful thing that I have to report is that the state does have a budget.
Woohoo!
Yes. We don't yet know any particulars. I'm hoping that maybe the state library will have some information on that. I know there's a lot to figure out since there hasn't been a budget for 2 years, and there's a lot of backed up bills and transactions and things like that, but that's really good news. The construction project in Burr Ridge is coming along very well. We've been,
Maybe give a little.
yes, we've been, we are, if you haven't been to Burr Ridge, it was a building that was built in about 1970 with all of the pros and cons related to that. If there are any pros, I'm not quite sure what they would be. There are many cons. I'm kidding, kind of. But the plumbing really had not been updated since then. We were not in compliance with some of the ADA requirements in terms of the bathroom stalls, et cetera, the height of counters, those kinds of things. And so we've been working on the plumbing and mostly, and also we have recarpeted. We had a whole series of different color and styles of carpets that were in many areas bubbling up, and we were getting, slapped because of the possibility of trip and fall injuries. So all of this is wonderful, but very disruptive, I must say. It's been quite chaotic. But it is on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. I think, right, Mark? Mark's nodding his head.
Yes.
So that's all good. Just to say yes, right. We had our staff retreat at Starved Rock on a week ago, yesterday, and we worked on design thinking, which is looking at solving problems or developing new services using a methodology that starts with from the point of view of the user of the service. And I'll just give you a couple of highlights that I thought were just awesome. So one of the questions we worked on was how to better engage members and let them know what Rails offers. And so one of the, we had, I think, 15 different teams, and one of the teams came up with the idea of putting information about Rails, I guess advertising for lack of a better word, on our trucks that drive around.
No.
That has completely
I
blank
saw a
space
Rails
on
truck
them.
last week. It was like, there's a Rails truck. And
yeah, and Jim's team came up with the idea of putting information on those blue bins that are in every library in Rails. So I mean, those kinds of things which are, there was an audible, oh, when those ideas were put forward, because it just makes so much sense, you know, and it would be easy to do. So those are some examples of what we did. I did want to let you all know also that this was our, we bid farewell to our Talking Book staff at the retreat. And it was, you know, their positions end on August 31st. The service is going to be completely handled by the State Library. And they specifically asked me to thank you, board members, for keeping the service going for another year. It really meant a lot to them. So I wanted you to know that. They have been amazing in their, you know, continuing hard work and commitment to the service, and we will miss them, and we will miss the service quite a bit. And Rose is going to give a report later on the transition that's taken place. I guess that's enough. Any questions?
Yeah. Oh. Did anyone else hear that? No? Okay. So, Dee, guess who gets to talk?
Yeah, right.
Would you like to give the service and operations report?
Sure. Well, you've heard a lot about the services, the group discounts. You've heard a little bit about that. We've told you about the retreat. We've told you about Talking Books. You're going to be hearing from some of the department heads later on, so I think I'll just not talk and see if anybody has any questions. You also have the consortia report.
Yeah.
This year, this meeting, we quarterly put in the reports from after we have the consortia committee meeting. They all provide, well, not all, but most provide a written report. So we put this in to give the board a sense of what is going on out there in all of our consortia.
And it includes all of the consortia that are within the Rails geographic boundaries, but not all of the consortia receive funding from Rails, as Jim spoke earlier.
Right.
So.
And that's just a historical artifact, who gets funding and who doesn't. And it's just how it evolved. Some of the, you know, there were systems that were previous to Rails, like DuPage, like MLS, a Metropolitan Library System, Alliance in Peoria, North Suburban Library System. Some of those systems had started a resource sharing program, a local library system automation program, and some didn't. And so that's where to put it really simply.
Yes, and some did, and then some of those left and decided they wanted to be independent
right, or some of them
entities.
split up, or so it's, and so the ones that are supported by Rails, it's strictly based on history.
Mm-hmm. And it's something
which it shouldn't
that we've,
be, but it's something we're working on.
Yes.
Because all the groups, and Scott is a member of one of the groups, Pinnacle, they don't get any funding from Rails.
Like my consortium
and
doesn't
your consortium,
either.
but they do the very same work, and so we're trying to bring some equity to that. But it's difficult because, as Jim was saying, at least two of the consortia, Prairie Cat and RSA, are very dependent upon our funding, and they're housed in our buildings, and their staff is our staff. So it's a very complex situation.
And if you would like to know more about it,
right,
you should grab a drink.
Yeah, right.
So,
right. In a couple of hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, does anyone have any questions for Dee on any of the reports before we move on? Okay, so for the new board members, every month we are lucky enough to have members of the State Library join us and give us a report. So, Deb, I will turn it over to you for the report from the State Library.
Thank you, Kate. And I bring greetings to everyone from Secretary of State Jesse White and Deputy Director Greg McCormick. Like Dee said, the good news is that we do have a fiscal year 18 budget, and we are working to finalize the allocations and distribution of those funds. It wasn't exactly what the Secretary had requested, but we're in a better place we are today than we have been for the past 2 fiscal years. We have not asked the systems for any modification of their application to the state library. We only asked for some clarifications, and we've received that already from Rails, and that was due to the membership standards. So thank you for your prompt reply. And as Dee had said, we're waiting for some funds from fiscal year 17, but we don't know about those payments at this time. We know it is a sizable amount that is owed to Rails, and as soon as we know something, we'll let you know.
Thank you. That's all we can ask.
Yes.
Yes.
And Deb, would you mind, I know that when you introduced yourself, but perhaps you and Mark could just briefly kind of summarize the areas that you're each responsible for at the State Library for our new board members?
I'm the Associate Director of the Library Development Group, which is the grants, programs, and literacy department at the State Library. So this oversees the grant program that goes out to all types of libraries from the State Library. It oversees the system, coming to the system board meetings, answering questions. Each of the consultants, there's 13 consultants in the department. Each of them go ahead and have specific areas, the system per capita report, the library per capita, the IPLAR, the Illinois Center for the Book, the literacy department, Mark can talk about that, and the construction department, the traffic survey, all of those types of reports and grants and monitoring are under my perusal at the Illinois State Library.
Hi, I'm Mark Schaefer again, and you caught me right after I put a piece of candy in my mouth, and I don't want to be, so I don't want to be rude and spit the candy out, so bear with me. I work part of my time with the Library Development Group and part of my time with the Literacy Office, and in the Literacy Office, I'm the point person for the Workplace Skills Enhancement Grants. And those are given to educational agencies and businesses to provide literacy training to their employees at their place of work. That's one of the literacy programs. We also do adult, volunteer, and family literacy. And then with my responsibilities in LDG, I am the point person for both of the construction grant programs. And I also do a lot of other things. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of update you on is that I'm working with the Department of Revenue. They have gotten all their information in for their, to update the taxing district, the library services area map, which is the taxing districts of all the libraries in Illinois, the interactive map that we have. We're in the process of updating that with some I would say not new information, but there has been some boundary changes. And so we will send out an email to all library directors probably within the next 2 weeks, reminding them of that application or that map that's available with your username and your password.
Great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for the State Library? Okay then, well, we will move right along then to new business, the overlay. Shane, I don't know if you'd like to give more information. I know we talked a little bit about it under Consortia Committee.
Yeah, I think we covered the basics.
Here, do you want to?
Sure. We covered the basics in the memo and talking about the Consortia Committee, but I just want to emphasize a few things. The pilot project is conceived as being limited to 3 consortia, and we made that decision to work just with consortia for the pilot because it will give us the most bang for our buck. Part of the cost of a project like this is in connecting the different integrated library systems. So by working with 3 consortia, we only need to connect 3 systems, and yet we're aiming to have 10 to 20 libraries in our pilot project. Long term, assuming we have a successful pilot project, which I would anticipate given that there are similar projects in many other states in large-scale implementations. So long-term, what we would envision is the opportunity for any consortia that want to participate, or any libraries in any of the consortia, it doesn't have to be the whole consortium, as well as our standalone libraries, to improve resource sharing and also to better enable patron-initiated requesting, as well as easing the workload on interlibrary loan staff. So that is the vision that we have for this project. Any questions?
When you mentioned standalone libraries, exactly, could you go into more detail about that and this project?
Okay, but by standalone libraries, we mean libraries that have their own catalog system, catalog circulation system, that are not participating in one of the shared catalog consortia. So we have been...
Like Schaumburg.
Like Schaumburg, like Aurora, like Bartlett. We have many of those. And in fact, we have, I believe it's still true that we have more libraries with standalone systems than participate in all the consortia combined. So it's a big component of our overall automation landscape. Overlay is kind of our term for this. A lot of times it's called consortial borrowing. But we've termed it an overlay project to emphasize that the goal is not to replace any of the existing catalog systems, but to link them together. So that's how it would improve resource sharing, because it would make it much easier for patrons and for library staff to find resources in Illinois.
Good afternoon. The Aurora Public Library will be showing the movie Silence on the second floor in the Dolan Team Program Room at 2 o'clock.
Oh. No. We need to stay. We need to stay here, people. We need to stay.
You got 15 minutes.
Can you give an example of why most libraries that are standalone choose not to participate in consortia? Like, is it just... I'm just curious. You can be politically incorrect. I don't.
No, it's not. I'm just laughing.
I've seen 2 reasons. A, matter of local control.
Yep.
Yes. The second thing is that they've expended so much funds in their own system, they don't want to give up those use of those funds for something else. That's my understanding.
Mm-hmm. And I would add a third. There's a number of libraries that simply, that as we talked about, we have a wide range of budgets throughout Rails and throughout the state. A lot of libraries can't afford the initial costs to join.
Or the ongoing costs.
Or the ongoing costs. Mm-hmm. And so that presents a significant barrier to having them become members, which is why Rails now offers LSAP grants to help offset at least those initial costs, right. So that, you know, if that's one of the few barriers, that they can maybe maintain the ongoing.
Yeah. History is a big piece of this too, and as Dean mentioned, you know, the predecessor library systems had, and most of them did have LSAPs. And there was a great variation in the amount of system support that went to those various LSAPs. So, for example, in RSA, their previous system Alliance put a lot of resources into supporting that and encouraging participation by very small libraries. Other systems did not for various reasons.
And so now we have a situation. Can you hand me that? So now we have a situation where we also have a group that's called the Consortial Model Working Group, which is a subcommittee of the Consortia Committee that's looking at this issue of sustainability, because there are libraries that are in LSAPs that would not be able to afford to be members if Rails funding went away or decreased. There are libraries that, I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. Anyway, sustainability is really a big issue, and so and the overlay would have been, or will be potentially an alternative for libraries to join. That's one possibility. It's also could be an alternative way of getting catalog records, which we spend a lot of money on. So sustainability is a big issue for us right now.
Yeah. And historically, what had been, a lot of people thought that the best thing to do was to try and find a way to have one catalog throughout the entire state. But that is not something that is really viable for a number of different reasons. And so this is
local control.
Local control being a huge one. And so this is another way of getting resources into people's hands without having to have everyone on one catalog.
Does any state have one catalog system?
Colorado, don't they? No?
No. Not altogether. Not all the academic libraries and public libraries have that.
But I don't think they have, I think they have one state financially supported system, CLIC. I think that's what.
Well, they have one system, yeah. But CLIC doesn't run the.
It's not an ILS?
No.
Oh. Maybe, there's so many different flavors of resource sharing and how, depending on how it developed. Connecticut maybe, but these are much smaller states too. Well, not Colorado, but
Right.
They have something in Connecticut called bibliomation, I think.
And Michigan has something similar to what the overlay would be.
Michigan has it. Indiana system is relatively new. They just came live last August. They have several hundred libraries already participating. Wisconsin has a system, Colorado, Maine. So systems, projects like this are in
Massachusetts has
a
long-standing one.
yes.
Yep. In terms of like an overlay type product, or virtual catalog is another name for it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm interested to hear a little bit about the participation of not public libraries and what that's been like and what the reaction has been from them.
In terms of the overlay?
Yeah, in terms of participating and.
Well, we're not at the participating point right now, but
talking to people about participating.
We did have participation from Carly in that Ted Schwitzner was representative on the overlay software search working group. We've had conversations with Carly's staff, and they've done, I think, some reporting on that, but one of my next steps is to do some outreach to them to recruit potential participants. They have asked that at this point I work with their resource sharing committee.
Yeah, we're really interested in having Carly participate.
Yes.
Or Carly Libraries participate in the pilot project.
Yes, because if we can have this multi-type, I mean, that really expands the range of resources we can open to people.
The difficulty for them is that they're in a transition. I mean, they're trying to buy a new library system, a new platform. So, as I don't need to tell you, I'm sure. And so it's hard for them to make decisions about the future because they don't know what's going to happen with that. We also have another consortium that's not an LSAP called the Rock River Library Consortium, which is multi-type out in the
Sterling area.
Sterling, Rock Falls area. And there's several school libraries are a member of that, so we would potentially get that kind of participation as well.
They have already committed 3 libraries.
Yep.
Sterling Public, Dixon Public, and Rock Falls High School have.
Which would be great.
have said they would participate. I spoke to Prairie Cats Delegates Assembly, which is their larger group, where every one of their members has a representative. I spoke to them on Wednesday about participation, able to share the recommendation for the specific software, since I've not notified vendors at this point, so it's a little bit awkward timing. I will be doing that on Monday. But even at that, I had a couple of libraries talk to me afterwards and express interest, even though they didn't hear what the recommended software is. So.
And Prairie Cat is a good example of a consortium, well, in LSAP, that has a multi-type membership that includes schools, publics, some specials, and covers a pretty wide geographic swatch, because it kind of, I think of it like a C on the outside of Illinois. Yep. So they are, and they also have full membership, as well as people that are only, I shouldn't say only, that are union list members, which is essentially that, like what the overlay project is suggesting. So there's people that are already familiar with kind of that concept. So. Anything else on this, Jane? I know we're not taking action because we need to do more research.
Talking about this more at later meetings.
Yes.
But I'm happy to answer questions now, or if you think of any later on, just drop me an email. I'll be glad to.
So to make sure, do we have any questions from anyone on the phone? Or on any of the other video conferencing sites? All right, well, thank you so much, Jane. So we got a brief respite, but now we're going to talk a little bit about board orientation, because as you may know, we have some new board members. So, Dee, back over to you.
Thank you. I suppose it would also be a good thing to just let the board members say a couple things about where they're at. So you want to start, Christine?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Christine Barr. I'm a school librarian in Geneva, Illinois. I was at Fabian Elementary for the past 8 years, and this year I'll be at Harrison Street School, Elementary School. It's a K-5. I'm also a Illinois Library Association board member, so doing a lot.
Oh, good.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, great.
So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I'm Nadia Sheikh. I'm currently Vice President of the Carroll Stream Library Board. This is my second term. Prior to that, I was board secretary, very involved with my library. We're undergoing a big renovation project. Pretty excited about that. And when I was elected, it was the most contentious race in DuPage County. So it's not like that anymore. We've done some cleaning up, and we're excited to get done some work. But we have a very passionate community, and very happy to be on board.
When you're not doing library stuff, which I'm sure is just
all the time,
minimal amount of time.
I'm a health administrator. So right now I'm at home with my 2 little girls, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. But before that, I worked at Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital as a pediatric administrator. And then prior to that, I worked at UCLA in a private practice. That's pretty much it.
That's great.
Thank you.
I'm Gwen Gregory. I'm the head of the Resource Acquisition and Management Department at the Library of the University of Illinois at Chicago. And I was formerly a member of the Rails Member Advisory Group when it existed, which was a great thing to do. So I've been following Rails since Rails started and did some things with the MLS. Before that, I was on the MLS Academic Advisory Group, what it was called.
MLS being the Metropolitan Library System.
The Chicago Library System. So I've been in Chicago for about 10 years. I also previously worked at the John Marshall Law School Library.
Then we have Joe on the phone. If we wanted to, Joe, would you want? We can also wait until next
Hello?
month if you're. Hi, Joe.
Hi, how are you?
Would you like?
It's a little hard hearing some of you
Good.
folks, but yeah, I've served a couple terms as a library trustee in Oak Lawn. I'm treasurer for the Village of Oak Lawn. I'm a CPA, and I'm with a practice in Oak Lawn called Southland Accounting and Tax. Hello.
Great, thank you.
That sounds good.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear us?
Are you guys able to hear me?
Can you hear us?
Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
We were.
Okay.
And then Dee, I know that technically you are not a new board member, but merely a re-elected one. But would you like to do an introduction as well?
Sure. Actually, I've just served on the board for a year because I was completing a term for somebody who'd left. I'm an attorney in Davenport, Iowa now. I recently switched law firms to the Pasternak law firm in Davenport, Iowa. However, I'm a resident of Moline, and I've been on the Moline Public Library Board of Directors for, I'm going to say something like 10 years. I've been president of the Moline Library Board, and am currently on a few of its committees. That's it.
That seems like enough.
All right. Great. Thank you. All right. Well, so we're going to talk to you all for a few minutes. Some of the board members know this very well. Some of even you more longer serving may not know all of it. So hopefully it'll be interesting for everyone. And this is just a, initial foray into orientation. I will tell you, all you new people especially, and including Dee, I'm going to come and visit you. You will not escape me. And Sue knows this. I have been to Kewanee a number of times. I have been to Warren County to see Michelle. And I've been to Galesburg to see Harriet. And Michelle also came to Burr Ridge, even during the chaos just recently. And Sue has come to Burr Ridge. I think that, and Laura Turner also, when she was new or newer, we would like all of the board members to come to Burr Ridge for a tour and to meet the staff and get a better sense of what goes on there. We will arrange that for you. We will put you up if that is needed. I just think it's a really good way for you to get a better sense of what goes on, because that's where most of the Rails people are. But I will find you in any case. So,
I got a tour already by Emily.
okay, good. All right.
Knocked me out.
All right, we can check that off the list. So, a lot of you may know about what is currently the Red Book. I'm holding up the Red Book for Joe and Michelle and Harriet can see me, and Dee. This is the Illinois Library Laws and Rules, and if you don't all have one, we will get you one. This is the Bible, and in it is the Illinois, in addition to all kinds of laws related to your local public libraries, mostly, is the Illinois System Act, which defines what it is that systems do. And it is very clear on what our job is. Our job is to encourage resource sharing and to help libraries do the best job that they can serving their local communities. And so pretty much everything we do, well, not pretty much, everything that we do is focused on that. We have a strategic plan, which was emailed to the new board members. It's on our website. And I think one of the things that we're going to do this year is take a look at that. And I think that will be a good way for you all to get a better understanding of what it is that Rails does In our strategic plan, you'll see that we have a few different goals or strategic initiatives. The first one is resource sharing. Second one is access to information. That's about, has been about talking books. It's about service to the unserved. The diversity of our members, we have, libraries of all sizes, types, and funding levels, and we have to be sure that we provide service to all of them. Customer service and innovation are very important to us, that we have a collaborative culture in Rails so that we can serve libraries best, and probably most importantly, that we are good stewards of tax dollars, that we are transparent, and that we are accountable. So you'll be learning more about the strategic plan, but that's the gist of it.
And I would just like to point out, which I find incredibly helpful, each month in the reports, the strategic goals and categories are tied. The reports are tied
They're
to
organized
them
by
so that you
those
can see
goal
where
areas.
they are moving forward.
Right. That was very intentional.
Which is
That is
really
not an
helpful.
accident. Yes. And we work very closely with the state library on services and goals. We're having a meeting or a conversation in a couple of weeks about service to the unserved. That's a big issue statewide. Although interestingly enough, at the first meeting, and Dave was at that, and Harriet, the largest number of unserved residents is in Cook County, and the second largest is in DuPage County. So I think that there's some misconception that it is a Southern Illinois farming community, small town problem. It is not. It is a problem everywhere. And it's about 1 million people. So, as I say, the strategic plan and the System Act, those are core. We also do a program budget that Jim has reorganized the budget that we do for the state library so that it is generally organized by the different goals of the strategic plan so that you can see the % of our budget that is spent on these goal areas, because we, again, want to be sure that we're very accountable to you all and to members and taxpayers about how we spend our money. So that's just a big picture overview. Jane is going to talk for just a couple of minutes. Everybody gets 2 minutes. And next, what?
You said 2.5.
And next month it's going to be really interesting to see if Rhonda can stick to 2 minutes. So
I have a really large stopwatch. Would you
Okay,
like me
all
to
right.
bring it?
And you can tell her I challenged her that way. So, so Jane and I work very closely together. We have also, projects that we oversee, and we've kind of, we've divided up the work of the organization. So I'm going to turn it over to you and your stuff. You
can turn the microphone over to
I
me.
will do that, because one of the things that we share is
quiet voices. That's right. So, well, I have 5 people reporting to me directly, and they're all going to be speaking to you either this month or next month. So I'm not going to go into the areas that they cover, but they are Rose Chenoweth in Talking Books, Mark Hatch for Delivery and Facilities, Joe Philippic in CE and Consulting, Verona Pitchford, Membership Development and Resource Sharing, and Ann Slaughter for Technology, and that includes working with the consortia as well. So in addition to my working with them on various projects, a lot of my work is project-based. In the past year, I would say I've had 2 main projects. One was serving as co-chair of the Great Lakes Resource Sharing Conference, which is a multi-state
Conference, which was held in Oak Brook this year in June. So I'm kind of stepping away from that and freeing up some time for other things in the coming year. And as you might guess, my other big project has been the overlay project. I did chair the Overlay Software Search Working Group, which really started its work in August, so that has been a major focus for the past year. So, any questions? Okay. All right. I think Rose, you want to come up next?
I guess I'm sitting down.
We are not going to let Veranda sit down.
That is probably the secret. I'm probably going to tell you a few things that you don't know. Our mission is to serve the blind and physically handicapped. And we are the only department in Rails that actually serves patrons directly. And that's the one exception that we are. We're part of a national organization, the National Library Services for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. It was a department of the Library of Congress. In the state, the regional is located in the Springfield and the Illinois Talking Book and Braille Services, which is part of the Illinois State Library. And one of the things I've never said, and Jane was floored by it, so I thought I made a point of saying it now, we are an advisory outreach center. We do not have a collection, and we are the largest by far of any advisory outreach center in the entire country. We serve the entire state of Illinois outside the city of Chicago. The other advisory outreach centers serve maybe 3 or 4 counties in any one state. So we are unique in that aspect. When systems started, there were about 18 talking book centers in all the systems, and we are the last remaining one. So a piece of history is actually going away from the state. So it's when I'm organizing the records and transitioning, it's a bigger part than just transitioning out of Rails. It's transitioning out of all the systems. It's a service that's changing focus. And one of the unique things that we've talked about as a staff, we have 11 people on our staff, and among us, we have 115 years experience working with talking book patrons. And that cannot be duplicated probably anywhere. And it's something that it's going to be a challenge for the state to take on. They have plenty of people to handle the service. It's just that picking up that experience is something that will take time. And our patrons know that. We're going to have the same 800 number, so the transitions should be easier for the public. They're not going to recognize a name on the phone, but you get used to that. And the people that they've hired are going to be very oriented toward our patrons, so they will get good service. It's just that it's changing. The transition will end August 31st. The State Library has started, I think, about half of their new staff, and the other half of the staff will start, I think, Monday, if not then within a few days. So we will be transitioning some of the services there, and we hope to be part of the training because we're concerned about our patrons. They become our friends. 4 of our reader advisors have worked with patrons for over 20 years each. So we're friends. We're a main part of their families. So since all the collections moved to the State Library, everything that comes to them in the mail comes from the State Library, and now it's the people. It will take a bit of time, but it should be a relatively easy transition. We appreciate any of you that can help sell the word about talking books, because people don't remember we exist until they need the service. And we call it our ambassador program, and we're working through the public libraries and other types of libraries as well. But we need those people to be our ambassadors to get the word out to people that need it. So we serve the blind and the physically handicapped, not able to read, standard print, or hold a book, either one. Thanks.
Thank you. And I should say that the reason that the Talking Book and Outreach Center is ending is that the funding has ended. But the State Library is committed to providing the service, and so they will be continuing.
And we serve, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly, and I could be way, way off, over 200,000 people are impacted in Illinois or fall into the category?
And, the AOC serves about 12,000 patrons.
12,000 patrons.
And the Chicago population served about 2,500.
Okay. And those were patrons who were served directly. There are potentially people
Right.
who are
There's
not.
potentially many more.
Yeah, potentially served. All right. Thank you so much, Rose. Is it Mark or Jim? Mark? We'll put this back over here. Oh, Jim isn't. You're not on the list. I'm sorry. Next one. Okay. Oh, Mark is going to time himself.
All right, stop now.
Do you have a leveler in there too?
I just lost 2 seconds.
I'm sorry.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Mark Hatch, and I run the delivery area and facilities for Rails. I'll just give you a brief update on what's going on as far as our facilities are concerned. We have 5 facilities spread out throughout the northern part of the state. We've got our Burr Ridge office, which is the administrative office, which Dee's alluded to is currently being renovated right now. We also have a property in East Peoria that we're leasing, where we have our RSA and a delivery operation. And then in Bolingbrook, Coal Valley, and Rockford, we also have facilities in those areas where we have Prairie Cat staff and also delivery operations. Out of the 5 locations, 3 of them are leased. We do own the Burr Ridge building. We also had the Coal Valley property that we own, but we currently have that on the market right now for a little over $400,000. So if anyone is interested in a building in Coal Valley, please definitely let me know. So we don't have any plans to sell the Burr Ridge facility. So that'll be it for as far as facilities are concerned. As far as delivery, now that is the big potato. That's, as you pointed out, that is about 30% of our budget. Delivery is a 24-hour operation. It's a mixture of in-house and outsource deliveries. Just within the rail side, we have 23 routes out on the street on a daily basis, 60 staff members, including myself. We've partnered with Continental Transport Solutions, or CTS, in Bensonville, that does a lot of our locations in the northern part of the state, or the Legacy, Wheeling, and Burr Ridge offices. That organization does about 133 locations, services about 133 locations a day. Between the 2 organizations, the Rails and CTS, we service about 653 delivery stops a day. We actually make those on, I guess that's an average number. Also wanted to share something else that is somewhat unique that we're doing within delivery is the CDPs, or the Community Delivery Partnerships. We've got about close to 150 of those locations where we actually have a host library that receives the deliveries for the smaller libraries, in essence providing them with a 5-day-a-week delivery. Majority of your smaller volume locations probably wouldn't receive delivery, but either on call or 1 or 2 times a week. So by establishing the CDP, we're actually able to provide them with 5-day-a-week delivery. We process about 9.3 million items. That's what we've been averaging for the last, I'm at 3 minutes. For the last 2 years, we're about 9.3 million items. And how we come about that number is primarily by the fine counts that we've asked the libraries to do for us. We do that 4 times a year, and it's very beneficial to actually know what we're working with.
And with that, I know I'm cutting into your overtime, but
Yes.
with the fine counts, what we do is for 1 week solid, we literally hand count every single item that is set. The libraries do.
Right.
So like my circ staff will hand count every single item that is put in so that we can make sure we're getting a really good number.
And we appreciate that, because that's the only way that we actually have a true number of actually what we're doing, because I actually staff by the volume. You know, I know how to and I know I'm going into too much detail as far as vehicle capacity and things of that nature. You know, having that volume is extremely important to us. Along with that volume, you know, I think we're at a pretty good number as far as what our per cost is, and we're at about 29.30 cents an item to process those items. So I think, you know, from my research, I think that's a pretty good number to be at. I'll skip over the ticketing system, but I encourage you guys to use the ticketing system because I've gone way over my time. I'll
The
also
ticketing system is for delivery if there are issues at individual libraries.
Right, if individual libraries, if you even just wanted to say, you know, good job, kudos, thank you very much, you can utilize the ticketing system for that as well.
Is that a
You know,
hint?
That is a hint, you know, so
Okay.
not just because of the fact that you have an issue, but yes, we definitely want to have we want to address the issues because if there's something that we can put in place to mitigate it, we will definitely do it, you know, so it's definitely, I encourage everyone to do that, and I've got little cards with our delivery help desk information on it, so if you would like a card, I can have those, pass those out as well. Then I'll touch on two other things and then I'll stop. I wanted to talk about the IODS contract that we're actually servicing the IODS, which is 130.
What exactly is ILDS, Mark?
The IODS is the Illinois Library Delivery Service. You know, it's part of CARLI, which is the Consortium of Academic Research Libraries in Illinois. So I got it. So
That was beautifully done.
outstanding, thank you. So we've got that. We were actually able we were awarded that a contract to actually receive service those 130 locations throughout the state. We've actually partnered with our sister system, the Heartland Library System, to pull it off. And like I said, we do have a 24-hour agreement in place where we turn their material around within 24 hours, which until, once that was put in place, it also helped expedite the material that we had in-house as well. So, last thing, I'm sorry. Okay, last thing is LASA. We're working with at the SIU Edwardsville. LASA is the Laboratory of Applied Spatial Analysis group to actually come in and look at our operation to see if we can gain efficiencies, look at our service hubs to see if they're in the right location, things of that nature, you know, so I better stop now. Okay, let's take a peek and see. 6 minutes and 5.
I feel
My
like,
apologies,
to
my
be
apologies.
fair, we should,
I told him he would
Even if we took a minute off.
Well, yeah, you got to give me 2.
I think that the message here is that what we do, and particularly what Mark does, cannot be described in 2 minutes, right? It's
Thank you.
Beautifully stated.
Which is not any kind of a
It sounded like a.
And next we have Mary Witt.
If you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Yes. Go ahead. And then I will describe my projects after that. That's fine.
You want to go first? I'll sit
I
here.
want you to go first.
All right. I am with the communications team at Rails. We are, he's timing me. We are a 4-person team. Myself, Debbie Baskey, who's here today, and Brian Smith and Nikki Zimmerman. And our main goals are to make sure that our members know all about the programs and services we offer, especially for them. And we also want to make it ultra easy for them to engage with Rails and also to engage with each other. We provide a number of tools to help them do that. We have the Rails website. We have a weekly Rails e-newsletter, which I hope you are all subscribed to. If you're not, I can certainly get you subscribed. We also have periodic e-newsletters for academic, school, and special libraries because it's often harder for people from those types of libraries to find out what's going on. We offer quarterly member updates to give the latest news to members, and they can attend those at one of our many video conference locations or via their desktop computer, and a lot of them do attend that way. We have a Facebook page, we have a Sparks podcast, and then we also do have a number of print materials. Like we have a great new brochure. If you haven't seen that, I'd love for you to see that. We also have bookmarks and flyers and things like that. But our favorite way of communicating with members, we can't always do it this way, but we love to meet with them in person. We have a 27,000 square mile area, so it's a little hard, but we do visit over 20% of our members each year, and we rotate that so we're not seeing the same members each year. We also, any conference that'll take us, any library-related event that'll take us, we love to have exhibit booths. It's a perfect way for a bunch of people to be there all at one time. We can see them face to face, tell them all about Rails, and they can tell us what's going on with their library as well. I mentioned engaging the.
Is he holding it up?
He is being really inappropriate. I'm not over 2 minutes. We also have ways for, and I'm on the last thing, we also have ways to help members engage with each other. We have over 40 mailing lists that people can participate in. You can communicate with people who share the same job or who work at the same library as you do. We also schedule networking meetings throughout our area on a regular basis, and we have virtual meetings for people who can't get away from their libraries, because that is a problem for some of our members. So that's it. I think that was under 2 minutes. So are there, except for the part where you were interrupting.
The competitive
So that's it.
Thank you so much, Mary.
So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the projects that I work on. You can certainly get a good sense of them, because I include them at the beginning of my goals are at the beginning of my report every month, so you will see them there as well. But specifically, obviously we talked about the standards already, talked about the unserved. I do a lot of just sort of, a lot of people call me up, they have questions, board members and directors. I spend a lot of time with members, both, on the road or in my office. I work a lot with our partners, other stakeholders like ILA. We just put on Directors University with ILA and a bunch of other, with the State Library, which was to train new directors in how to do, know all the things that they need to know. I work a lot with the State Library. Obviously, the budget's always, something that Jim and I spend quality time on together. A lot of time with the board visits, board outreach, that kind of thing. Very much, as I say, Jane and I work very closely on sort of strategic kinds of projects that sort of, push Rails forward and push Illinois libraries forward. A couple of the we have some exciting national kinds of things that we're doing related to an ebook summit that we're one of the conveners, I guess is a way of putting that, to get a national conversation and consensus on ebooks, new business models, kind of, those kinds of things. Going to be working on a couple of exciting projects related to fake news. That's in my report, working with Mary Minow and ALA. What else was I going to tell you? I guess that's it. So that's just a very little bit about Rails and some of the things that we do. And we'll do more of it next month. And if you all have questions, please, ask them now or ask me later. I hope that you are all set up with IT. Everybody on the phone, all set up with IT? Your
Yes.
email, all that? Ryan? Yes, as far as you know, it's all good. I'm going to put in a personal plea here that you please, when Emily, long-suffering Emily, sends you an email about, where you're going to be for a meeting, or if you're coming to a meeting, or what you want for lunch, or any of those things, please respond to her, because we really need to know if you're going to be at a meeting, or because we have quorum issues. And please also remember The Open Meeting Act is very important. I know all of you have taken your training, but don't reply to all on an email, because that is a violation of the Open Meeting Act. So,
And also it won't go through. We have a ITS.
but don't do it anyway.
Don't do it anyway, but it won't go through anyway. We have a staff that does that. And also reimbursement, I will send reimbursement forms to everyone to remind them, and they can submit those to me, and I will get them to the finance department.
Because when we go and visit or have meetings at alternate locations, Rails does reimburse for mileage. So
Anywhere you attend.
anywhere you would, I should say, yeah. I was thinking about where I usually. Yeah, that makes sense. So, does anyone have any questions for Dee or Mark or Mary or Rose that you'd like to ask about today? Anyone on the phone? I feel like I always forget about the phone people.
Tired them out.
I know. I would also, as Dee mentioned earlier, encourage those of you who have not to set up a time to go and visit Burr Ridge. It really is nice to get a better sense of things. And if you have any other things that you would like to be oriented on, to let Dee know as well.
Right.
So we're going to move along to committee appointments. In each of your folders, there was a list of the committees. Emily had also sent out an email with this. So I'm not seeking volunteers right now, but I wanted to simply ask that you take a look at this, and if you have not, please let Emily know if you are happy with the committees that you are on, if you're an existing or a previous board member, if you're a new board member, what committees are of interest to you. And also, since I am now the president, I cannot serve as the FOIA officer, so we do need a FOIA officer. Please let Emily know, and she'll be compiling those, and then we will be, hopefully, if we hear back from everyone, as we hopefully will in a very timely fashion, we will have those for the next meeting. But does anyone have any questions about what each committee entails? No?
What does the FOIA officer do?
You get emails if someone submits a FOIA request, which I've been the FOIA officer, I think, for 3 years, and I've had one. And then I call Dee and I say, Dee, did you see this? And Dee says, yes, we're on it. And I say, great, is there anything you need me to do? And she says, no, we're good. And then Dee says, here, we sent it out, we were in the time frame, we're good. It is very demanding.
I'll do it. I'll arm wrestle you for it.
Wow.
We may have to have a FOIA officer
Showdown.
lottery. Yeah. So, but yes, that's pretty much it. Sure. Any other questions? All right, then I'm going to just end with another plea to please let Emily know as soon as possible what committees you would be interested in, if you want to change any, if you're on some, or if you're happy with where you're at. Next up, we have some human resources changes.
Yes.
And so you've got some information in your packet, but I'll let Dee summarize.
Right. So, as I told the board last month, our HR director, human resources director, Barb Brooks, resigned to take another position. And so we talked internally and agreed that a better organizational structure, a more efficient one, and one that will allow us to focus on staff training more than we were able to with Barb. So Jim kindly agreed to take on responsibility for some of the core HR services. He, as Director of Finance, obviously has a lot of involvement with things related to insurance and benefits. He's actually on a couple of insurance cooperative boards for us. He always worked very closely with Barb on, the annual report and in terms of the, salaries and, the finances related to that. So there are two great HR assistants on staff, Samantha Daly and Mary Hudspeth. I think you know Mary from a previous trusteeship. And so we're working with them, Jim in particular, obviously, to figure out if they need more help. So his finance department staff, his HR staff, they'll be also working together. So it's just a better sort of collaboration. And so we've asked Joe Philippek to take on he already does oversees training for members, and it seemed to make a lot of sense for him to oversee training for staff as well. So there is a lot of crossover. And so he agreed to that, and so that would be a promotion for him to director, because this is a big additional responsibility. So I have enclosed the organizational chart, which the board approves, and the salary structure, which the board approves, because both of those will be changing, and so I would ask that you approve the updated organizational chart and salary structure, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we need to do those as two separate, or can we combine?
I don't know, Madam President. I think it is up to you.
All right, well, first we'll see if we have any questions.
I think it was very well laid out.
Thanks, Scott. All right, hearing no questions, I'm going to do these separately, since one is money and one isn't.
fine.
So if I could have a motion to approve the revised organizational chart as presented.
So moved.
Thanks, Scott. If I could have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dave. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next, we have the updated salary schedule. If I could have a motion to approve the updated salary schedule as presented.
So moved.
Thanks, Dave. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sue. Emily, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Christine Barr.
Yes.
Dave Barry.
Yes.
Sue Busenbark.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Kate Hall.
Yes.
Scott Quinton.
Yes.
Dee Reynolds.
Yes.
Nadia Shake.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons.
Yes.
Joe Skibinski.
Yes.
Laura Turner. Yes. Harriet Zipfel.
Yes.
Wonderful. May I offer my congratulations to Jim, who is here, and to Joe, who is not, but who we will see at some point in the future.
Yes.
So,
Hopefully soon.
yeah.
Congratulations and thanks.
Yes. Next, we're moving on to unfinished business. We have the FY 2018 budget update.
Well, as I said, and as Deb Eggert said, the state has passed a budget. We are awaiting information from the state library. They did the question that the clarification that they asked was a very logical one, naturally, which was that since we had agreed to test the membership standards during this year, whereas in the original plan of service it said we were going to implement them or something like that. So we just modified that a little bit, and so and we have not been told to make any changes in anything. So we await further word, but it's all good news. Which when we last met, we didn't know if there would be.
A budget.
Any good news, yes.
And
So,
great. Any questions for Dee concerning the budget update? All right, so we have included in your packet was a schedule of board meetings for fiscal year 2018. We are in Aurora right now, well, for those of us that are physically here. And next month are proposing to be at New Lenox. We do typically meet on the fourth Friday of the month at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, although you will see from the list of dates that that does sometimes change, and those changes are noted on the sheet provided in the packet. So I would love to hear, especially because we have new board members, what people think about traveling to various locations outside of Burr Ridge. Burr Ridge is the main meeting site, but we have in the past really tried very hard to visit other sites in order to, one, connect with members in different areas, and two, for us as a board to see different areas that we are serving. So I would love to hear from people what you think about whether we would like to continue doing that and with what frequency.
I'll make a motion to accept the draft fiscal year 2018 board meetings.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we'll just do a little bit more discussion then. Especially I'm curious to hear from our new board members about traveling to other sites in the rail service
there's
area.
a lot of to be determined.
There are a lot of to be determined for locations.
And I think it's been very beneficial. I think it's been, and we always have, if we're able, we have a networking event the morning of the meeting, and so members come and you get to meet them, and we talk a bit.
Would you ever consider a school or like our central office?
We really need to be at a video conferencing site. And we could certainly talk about having video equipment, but.
That's what I was going to say, visiting some other types of libraries,
Mhm.
public libraries. But many academic libraries, I think, have video conferencing.
It has to be tied into this particular system, yeah. And I'm not saying we can't, look at that, but we don't have that ability right now, but it's certainly something to put on the list. Do we still have it in Western Illinois, or did we move it over?
We have it in Macomb.
Yeah, Macomb, yeah.
So perhaps there is because of the need to use the Polycon system, obviously investigating that would be great. I saw Mary diligently writing down things. But perhaps we also don't need to have the networking visits necessarily be at the Polycom site. I think that we've always done that because it seemed like it made sense, but perhaps that would be a great opportunity to visit some multi-type. I know, having gone on some networking visits, not tied to the Rails board meetings, but to different types, it's really fascinating and really interesting because you don't realize your day-to-day work could be very different than but other libraries, and just to expose us all to different library types would be wonderful. So perhaps we could look into doing that as well as kind of a
Right, and just to be, generally speaking, we meet at our service centers. We're here as opposed to Burr Ridge because Burr Ridge is under construction. So we're generally at a Rails site and then connect, all these other libraries. But absolutely, we had a fascinating visit a few years ago at Laura Turner's library, which is Caterpillar, which was really great. So,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. So it sounds like people are still very open to visiting other sites. I know one of the challenges has also been that Rails staff will spend a great deal of time and effort making these alternative sites possible, scheduling, depending on how far away it is, dinners and networking events and launching and coordinating with the different sites. But then we don't always have great in-person attendance. And so one of the things I think, if we are committed to doing this, I would hope that all of the board members would be committed to also taking the time to drive out there. And I know that it can be difficult, and that, as my admin assistant likes to joke, she's like, you mean the Friday each month that you're not here? And I'm like, yes, but this is important. And so I think that in order for this to be effective, we all have to show up, or at least the vast majority of us have to show up. Otherwise, it isn't really effective. Although it's always wonderful to see the Rails staff with people, but they need to see us too. So does everyone feel that that is fair, and are you willing to commit to doing that? Yeah, good, wonderful. So we do have a motion and a second on the table. We do have some to be determined dates that potentially we can work on getting some that are close to some school and academics.
We should go to Vernon, I think. We should go to Vernon at some point.
Yeah. That sounds lovely.
And you can see we
It's
don't
like
go
10 minutes
anywhere in
from
the winter because we don't want anybody to have to travel if they can't.
Right.
So, yeah. So we'll work on the March, April, May, June.
Right.
And I'm happy to, to help talk academic libraries into it.
Great. That would be great.
Thanks, Gwen.
Yep.
Wonderful. All right. Is there any other discussion on the board meeting schedule for FY18? Okay. Well then, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, wonderful. We're almost there. It's 2:45. I know you're thinking I could be watching Silence right now if I was here at Aurora. I'm not quite sure what that movie is. Is it a scary movie?
No, I already saw it. It's kind of depressing.
Oh.
Okay. This is obviously
way more
exciting.
No
that
question.
Martin Scorsese fellow. I must remember these are being recorded. Okay, so
too late.
D is going. Each month we do have a section of the meeting devoted to board development. At last month's meeting, we did brainstorm some different ideas for the coming year. And of course, if any of our new board members have ideas, please feel free to share those with Dee. But today we are going to be talking about United for Library offerings.
Yes, so I'm going to tell you how to access these offerings, and then we will also send you an email about it. I can't show you because it doesn't work well when we have a bunch of sites connected to look at something on the screen. It just doesn't work. So Rails subscribes to, I'll start at the beginning, I guess. United for Libraries is a division of ALA that is for trustees and friends of libraries of all types. And they provide a lot of great information about the role of trustees, the role of friends. They provide training. They provide webinars related to lots of different issues, advocacy, etc. So Rails, in the person of Joe Philippek, worked with United for Libraries to develop something that is called Short Takes for Trustees. And these are like literally 10-minute webinars or videos for trustees. You know, they're designed for boards to be able to look at them at a meeting because they're quick and about things like how to, budget, the budget, advocacy, those kinds of core responsibilities. And we have permanent access to this because we helped them develop it. And so the way that you get to that, the best way to get to that, as well as the other resource which we subscribe to for the entire state, And the short takes are also available to every library in the state. As you log into the Rails website, do you all have logins for L2? You all should. Okay. And so you log into the Rails website using L2, and then you go to the services page, and then you will see the Trustees Academy and the short takes right there. And then you'll also see a website or a URL that you can click on that has another user ID and password, which we're trying to fix this to make it simpler. Mary and I are in the process of this, and so we'll send you an email about this. But these are really great resources, and I think that they'll be useful for you not only as Rails board members, but at your libraries as well. So. Any questions about those resources? And we do board development. We try to do it every month. But we thought since we had already done so much orientation that this was probably enough on board development today. So.
This is what we could work on until next month.
Right.
And come back and see who has completed
If it
all
worked.
of the short
Yeah,
takes.
and if it, wow. And if it, like I say, getting to it we're going to try to make it easier, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that it's out there. And we'll email you about that.
Hey, any questions for Dee about that? Okay. So next up is our Rails board member reports. So each month we also have this on the agenda, and this is to let board members have a chance to speak and share anything going on at their libraries, in their areas, etc. That you are something that you're proud of or that you want to share. There's been things about chocolate in the past. What was that for? That's what keeps popping into my head.
Bill Coffee.
Bill Coffee. They were doing some type of wonderful chocolate thing.
A fundraiser.
Yeah. It's magical. Chocolate sounds really good right now. But that being said, there's lots of other exciting things happening, I'm sure. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share? Nothing?
It's okay.
All right. Well, next month, I'm sure. Oh, Joe, did you have something you would like to share?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought I heard a voice. I was grasping at straws. Well, I look forward to hearing. I'm sure next month will be very, very exciting. I'll say just one thing.
Okay.
We had a life-size Jenga last month that we did in our lobby, and it was the coolest thing ever. And so now my staff is really excited and are going. I'm at the Northbrook Public Library, and so we are going to start doing more like life-size board game things. And it turns out there's a bunch of stuff already out there, but the patrons really enjoyed playing life-size Jenga, and it had a, dual joy, because the people that played enjoyed it, but then we also had a lot of people that just watched that thought it was great fun to watch. So, and it's about the simplest program you can do, because we just taped up empty boxes and used that to make Jenga.
Cool.
So it was. So we also every month do agenda building for the next Rails board meeting. I'm presuming we'll probably be talking about the budget again.
Hopefully.
If there's
something
something
to say, yep.
And does anyone have any other agenda items for next month's meeting? No? Okay. Well, with that, I am not going to ask for a motion to adjourn. I've been waiting for this. Poor Dee, she's heard me talk about this for so many years. I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned at 2:53 p.m. and hope that everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Kate. Bye, everyone.